What's up, duelists? Before we get into the top 8 deck lists, huge reminder that there are only a few more RBETs left for this season that are open invite. June 8th and 9th is the last online RBET of the season, and then we have 3 in-person RBETs, June 15th and 16th in Los Angeles, August 3rd in Laurel, Maryland, and September 21st in New York City. Go ahead and check the description below for signups to those events. They will sell out. If you guys want to try any of these deck lists at the highest level of competition for the best prizes all year, that's where you're going to want to be. Also, second thing before we get started, shout out the judges and shout out all the players for making these events amazing. All right, moving into things. We got 8th place, Raikoko 7 with Hero Frogs. He's got a pretty unique take on this deck. He's got only 2 swap frogs. This is an innovation I made forever ago, and people called me silly. And what do you know? Here it is, getting top 8. So pretty solid stuff. Yeah, you kind of realize that after you find Treeborn Frog, the heavy count of frogs is not necessarily the best. Between Subsitoad, Swap Frog, and 1-for-1, which he's not playing. Oh, he is playing 1-for-1. Yeah, between 1-for-1, Subsitoad, and Swap Frog, you have 6 ways to find Treeborn Frog on turn 1. 8 if you count the Treeborn Frogs themselves. That's usually plenty. And if you don't have those cards, the chances of you having Stratos are really high. So, plenty of starters in the deck, plenty of ways to get going. And so, decided to cut the third swap frog for a little bit of space and a little bit of tech options like this Unifrog here, which is a really cool card. Yeah, pretty much that. A little bit of battle defense with Gores and Battle Fader. And then Double Threatening Roar, which is a card that has been skyrocketing in popularity. This is a card that was really good in formats right before Edison format because those formats were super, super fast. Now, as time's gone by, now as things have happened and developed, Threatening Roar has gained a lot of equity in Edison format because the format has gotten a lot more optimized, a lot faster. Chainable back row is even more important than ever before because removal is everywhere. People are playing Raikos, people are playing huge OTK combos like Dragon Turbo, like Miracle Fusion, like big synchro stuff with Diva, Goblin Zombie. And so just being able to stop that turn and end that turn while being chainable is pretty insane. It's also very important at dealing with cards that this deck normally struggles to deal with, such as Fossil Dyna and Archlord Christia. So, Threatening Roar, pretty solid card in this deck. I am a big fan of it in Edison format right now. I think it is a top tier trap card for me right now in Edison format. It is skyrocketed in the ranks. I've been playing it recently in Cat Synchro, and I've been massively impressed. I've played it a little bit in Lightsworn. I've been massively impressed. I've even played it here and there in other decks as well as a tech option, and it's overperformed. I'll just say it. It's overperformed. Could even see play in some of these other lists that we're going to cover for top 8. 1 enemy controller. This is a card I really like. 1 Soul Exchange. That's a card that I don't really like, but he's got 1 of each. They're both strong cards in certain aspects. Only 4 Monarchs, so very low on the tribute count for that Soul Exchange, but Soul Exchange does work with Subsitoad, and it also works with enemy controller. And it can also work with like Malicious Edge and Gores if you absolutely have to make it work. 1 Junk Synchron is the Rota target. This deck list just looks super clean. Maybe a little too many purple cards for my taste in Frogs. I like to have more Monarchs personally. I would maybe cut something like the Regeki Break for a second Ryza. But really solid stuff for Raikoko. He's a solid player. He's always playing some powerful stuff. Sideboard is really interesting. 1 Crow, 1 Breaker, 1 Sirocco, 1 Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, 1 Soul Release, 1 Smashing Ground, 1 Super Poly, 1 Needle Sealing, 1 Compulsory. So just a ton of 1-ofs. He must have had a very specific plan on how he wanted to side with all of these 1-ofs because that is a ton of 1-ofs. You're not going to really consistently see any specific card. So maybe it's just like minor upgrades here and there for the post-board situations. Normally this deck likes to side triple Vanities, triple Crow. So seeing only 2 Vanities and 1 Crow is very interesting to say the least. Double Dust Tornado, it's got to be for back row stuff. And double D-Prison because most people nowadays are siding out their Heavy Storm versus Frogs. Although I've seen a shift back to people just leaving in Heavy Storm versus Frogs because so many people have been siding trap cards in and just having like 10 plus trap cards post-board in a Frog deck. So people are just leaving their Heavy Storms in and just saying like, all right. And then that's it, pretty much. Sick stuff. Congrats to Raikoko on getting his top 8 with Hero Frogs. Really cool list. All right. 8th place also. Tied for 7th and 8th. Eric Frost with Vayu Turbo. Nothing too crazy here. 41 cards with a main deck Devastation Virus. This is a big reason to play this deck, the Deck Devastation Virus. He's got double Hamster as well to help improve the aggro matchups. I don't know how I feel about playing 41 cards in a deck that really wants to mill specific things and see specific cards like Dark Arm, Brain Control, Burial as soon as possible. But it's a marginal difference, and it didn't end up mattering for Eric Frost. He was able to make it to top 8. He's on the Return from the Different Dimension and the Chaos Sorcerer. I do like playing both of those cards. I think that they're really strong, especially the Return. Big fan of that card. The sideboard looks like all the good stuff you're used to seeing in Edison format, but he's got that Trap Stun, which I actually think is really cool. One interesting thing about this Value Turbo deck list is that normally one of the strengths of Value Turbo is that you can play Royal Oppression and your opponent can't. That's kind of the strength of it. But you'll notice in his main deck, he's not actually playing Royal Oppression at all. He's sideboarding it. And he's just going for like a bigger like sort of combo OTK strategy with Return, Chaos Sorcerer, a lot more special summons than we're used to seeing. Only 2 Caiuses, etc. So, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that you should probably main Oppression if you're playing this deck, because that's kind of the strength of this deck, is Royal Oppression. That being said, Deck Devastation Virus kind of fills a similar role in some matchups, namely against Quick Draw, so possibly he felt like I can just deck dev, Quick Draw, and Zombies and be kind of okay game 1. Who knows? Who knows? It's an interesting choice to not start the Royal Oppressions. I personally wouldn't do that because I think that that's like kind of the reason to play this deck, but I can see it with the Chaos Sorcerer and the Return and the main deck dev that you just didn't want to start Oppression. That's totally fine too. My Body's a Shield, an interesting card. We saw this in, I believe, Eric Shen's first place deck from RBET Orlando. And 1 Mind Control to steal Hamsters, steal Rykos, that sort of stuff. Not much to say about this. It's kind of the number 1 most played deck in the meta right now, which is interesting because this is the last one in the top 8, out at 8th place in double elimination. Now at 5th, 6th place, we have Gwari with Gladiator Beast. This is a historic moment for Gladiator Beast fans. This is the first Gladiator Beast deck to ever top 8 an RBET. Ever. In 3 years of running this tournament, this is the first time Glads has made top 8. And this is the list that did it. Say what you want about the list. Say what you want about it. But I will say this, from watching Gwari's matches in the tournament, he outplayed the fuck out of all of his opponents. I have never seen someone play like at that heightened level. He made some plays that I personally had never even seen before, didn't even think of. His reads were on point. He was like consistently making the right plays every single time he had the opportunity to do so. And as a result, he was able to take a deck that nobody else has been able to top with all the way to top 8. Actually, to top 6. He made it to 5th, 6th place. So that's really good. That's really, really good. It shows the power of being able to read your opponent and being able to outplay your opponent is much higher than necessarily the deck that you're actually playing. He messaged me himself, and these are his words on the deck list, so I can give you guys a little bit of what he thinks. He says, honestly, I already deleted the list. I don't feel the list I used is actually very effective. Aside for Value Turbo, I had 3 great matchups. So there was some free wins there as well. He was able to take down Value Turbo, of course. He says, honestly now, I'm trying the Prisma version, and I think that's probably the best build. Gotta admit that Value match was legendary, though. He played a really hype Value match on camera. You don't want to miss it. He expertly dismantled a Value Turbo player on the stream VOD, so go check that out if you haven't already. It was really, really sick. So if you want to see this deck in action, all these tech cards getting used to the fullest extent, that's the video you want to check out. He himself, not a big fan of his own list, but I actually think it ended up doing really well for him. All the different tech cards, the Double Hoplamish, the Grand Mole, the Morphing Jar, they all put in work when he was on camera. The Triple Wabaku put in work. Once again, similar to Threatening Roar. Very similar card. The only difference is it's a little bit worse than the Glad Mirror, but very similar to Threatening Roar in that just having chainable battle phase turn skips is actually really good in Edison format. Like, just getting that initiative back when you are potentially getting OTK'd after a heavy storm or something like that is crazy. So powerful. The main deck, Iron Walls, I'm not sold on this card. I think it's pretty bad. Sakuretsu Armor, Widespread Ruin, I think these cards they're not ideal. Widespread Ruin is interesting. It can take out Titanial, which definitely comes up against one of the more popular decks, which we'll get into in a second. And it can also take out Thought Ruler Archfiend, which, again, another application for Widespread Ruin. The one Sakuretsu armor doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me outside of like the bluff factor. A lot about this deck, and I think a lot about the success of this list, was Gwari knew exactly what his opponents was playing, but none of them knew what he was playing. There were a lot of instances where like Gwari would like set a monster and pass, and then his opponent would be scared to attack into it in case it was Hiplomas, and then he would go like end phase Icarus, sacrifice Maya Quest, pop your cards. And it was just like, he just had like so many like opportunities to force the opponent to make a bad play because they just didn't know what the hell was going on. And I think that that played a large role in his success with this deck. Sideboarding the Test Tigers, I'm not sure about this, but they can come up in some matchups. They're like kind of better than like Space Typhoon in some matchups, for example. Not playing Heavy Storm at all, very interesting, but I guess it makes sense when you're on fucking 23 back row. A lot of good stuff in the sideboard. Trapstones, I'm a big fan of right now. Prohibition, very interesting. Consecrated Light, very strong versus Black Wings, especially if you can defend it with like Starlight Road or Dark Bribes. So yeah, big fan of the Consecrated Lights in this build. I actually think that they're fantastic. It does kind of cuck you from making Geyseris, but I mean, if your opponent can't play the game, then it doesn't really matter if you can't make Geyseris because you can still play the game. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, really solid list. I think that Gwari's own sort of expectations of how well the deck did were lower than his actual performance, but I think it's a pretty solid list. I think you should definitely check it out, try it out, see what works, see what doesn't work, and maybe take his advice and move towards Prisma, or maybe just keep running. And I don't think there's anything wrong with just having a list that has a bunch of tech cards in it that your opponent isn't ready for, because they're constantly trying to predict something, and they'll make weaker or slower plays as a result, and then you can punish those pretty easily. So congrats to Gwari. This is actually a legendary run because, once again, it is the first Gladiator Beast deck to top 8 in RBET. And it's possible it'll be the last one for a while. This deck is a little bit underpowered compared to some of the other strategies we've been seeing. But you know what? Good stuff. All right. Third and fourth place. Well, actually, fourth place, we have Jake XO with Diva Hero Zombie. Jake XO is the only person who has been playing this Gold Sark Zombie list, and he is consistently topping with it. In his own words, he says he has practiced the same punch 10,000 times. He has a ton of experience with this build. He knows exactly what to Gold Sark for. He knows all the combo lines. He knows the ins and outs. He knows all the ways to sideboard in different matchups. And because of that, he's had huge amounts of tournament success. His player username on Dueling Book is Best Yu-Gi-Oh Player NA, and he's actually on his way to becoming that. Just by playing this one deck, focusing on how to improve this one deck, focusing on how to play this one deck in every matchup possible, and just learning how to play the game to the highest level with one deck, and really just focusing on that. He's accelerated his pace from being a player who's going like 0-2, like 0-3 in some cases in Swiss brackets, to consistently top 8ing with a deck that he just started with and was like, okay, I'm going to grind this, and I'm just going to keep grinding it because I believe in it, and it's more about how I play against my opponents than my actual build itself. Now, the actual build itself is really powerful too. You've got a lot of insane power cards. Look at all these 1s and 2s here. More than half the deck are cards on the restricted list, so you're very rarely going to open up a bad hand with a deck like this unless it's like double Mally, double Diva. Like, that's really the only thing. He's got the 1 Dark Grepher to help convert those Mallies. He's got the 1 Evil Guy to send off Future Fusion or search with Stratos to improve his Caiuses or to give him access to the Arm Colossal OTK. He's playing the 1 Gaia Knight. He's actually got Doom Kaiser and Hades in the extra deck alongside 2 Absolute Zero and a Gaia. So he's made a lot of concessions here on cards to include. He's not playing Mistworm. He's not playing Red Dragon. He's not playing multiple level 8s like multiple Stardust, multiple Thought Ruler, that sort of stuff. He's just got the 4 bare minimum level 8 Stardust, Dark End, Thought Ruler, and Colossal, and apparently that's all he needs. Only 1 level 7 in the Black Rose, but this deck doesn't really make level 7s. You make 6s and 8s, so yeah, no, it makes sense. The list is really cool. Double Miracle Fusion, going up to 2 from, I believe, the last time he topped. I wonder if that made a difference for him or if it was just marginal. The sideboard has a bunch of 1-ofs. The reasoning behind this is that you can search for things using the Gold Sarks, and then the 2-ofs are Skill Drain and Royal Decree, which are like powerful floodgates in matchups where you need them. So it's just like insane free win cards or a bunch of toolbox cards you can grab off of Gold Sark. There's something to be said about being able to side 3 copies of a card while only using 1 sideboard slot because of Gold Sark. And there's also something to be said about using Gold Sark in a deck with triple Pyramid Turtle, I think one of the hidden strengths of Goldsark is how it makes people play against you. When you play Goldsark, you're like, you want to kill me before I get this power card. And so people will start rushing you. They'll start attacking you. They'll start swinging. And if you just set a Pyramid Turtle, the first thing you want is someone to attack you. So if you activate Goldsark and set Pyramid Turtle, that's like one of the best openings you could have, because then they're going to be like, okay, I have to start rushing this. And then they attack the Pyramid Turtle, and then the Pyramid Turtle tutors whatever you need in order to combo them. And it's just like, it's just this cascade. And then on top of that, if you have return, you can set up a Goldsark return play, like worst case scenario. I think the coolest play I've seen from this exact build was Goldsark for Malicious, normal summon Diva, return back the Malicious, make double level 8 and OTK. That was one of the coolest plays I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a Goldsark Malicious before, and that was really sick. I don't even remember if it was Jake doing this or someone else I was watching playing his exact list, but that's sick. That's really cool. That's something that you would only learn from like playing this deck countless times, like he said. Definitely takes a lot of practice, and the practice is definitely paying off. Congrats to Jake XO on his second top 8 of this season. Speaking of repeat top 8s, GBO, third place with Black Wings. This is GBO's 4th top 8 in a row, one of the most consistent players right now. One of the most powerful players by far. He just makes the right plays, has solid lists, doesn't compromise, doesn't play any like random bullshit, random jank. He's topped with Flamvel, Machina, and Black Wings twice now, so he's got a very wide range. Kind of solidifying himself as like a really strong contender for the GOAT of this year. If he wins a tournament or tops a 5th tournament in a row, you could make a big argument for the consistency of GBO as a player. Really, really strong player. Not using Cyber Dragon, not using Chimera Tech. Pretty interesting choices. He's got double Crow Soul Release for Graveyard Hate, double Deck Dev for the Hand Hate, 1 Compulsory, 1 Light Mirror. Very strong card. Put in a lot of work for him over the course of the tournament. Triple Dust Tornado. These also put in a lot of work for him over the course of a tournament. Players would set 1 back row predicting Icarus attack, and then they just get blown out by the Dust Tornado every single time. So that's a good little modal option to just bring in those Dust Tornadoes, like whether it's over the Icarus attacks or just in general. He's maining the Royal Oppression, but he's only maining 1. He's not maining Torrential Tribute, I believe. Yes, no Torrential Tribute in the main or side. Double Pulling the Rug, 2nd Oppression in the side, double Dyna in the side. One of the most powerful sideboard cards right now. For reasons we're about to get into. Congratulations to GBO yet again. I feel like I'm congratulating this guy every tournament now, but you know what? That's what happens when you're goated with the sauce. Or shall I say joted with the sauce. NB96, 3rd place. Did I miss something? Did I mess something up? JKXO got 5th. That's right. JKXO got 5th and 6th. GBO got 4th. NB96 got 3rd. It's been a long weekend, folks. It's been a long weekend full of amazing Yu-Gi-Oh! And we've got 3 more decks here, actually, for you guys. But yes, congratulations. There's marginal difference between 4th and 5th, so it doesn't really matter. But you get the idea. NB96 making it all the way to 3rd place with Christia Sworn. A very interesting list, very similar to Hydro Pump's top 8 list from the last RBET and Pro Storm's list that I know that they have worked on together, with the double Threatening Roar, triple Wolf in the main deck, opted for triple Herald of Orange, triple Celestia, only 2 Archlord Christia. I think that this is a fine choice, but I personally would have played 3 Christia, 2 Wolf if I was going to play this list, because Christia is just the god card. Christia is just the best card in the deck. It instantly wins. But beyond that, double Hamster, triple Lila, great normal summons turn 1. 1 Jane, 1 Arcus, great normal summons. Lumina, no Garoth. No Garoth because Garoth doesn't mill on his own. Very intriguing. Cold Wave in the main, no Heavy Storm in the main. So Cold Wave being the only way to like really clear back row game 1 outside of monster effects. Pretty intriguing. We've seen lists not even play the Cold Wave, but including the Cold Wave I think is worth it. Cold Wave is one of the most powerful cards in the format that doesn't really have a home. It excels clearly in Judgment Dragon decks or decks that can summon big boss monsters that blow up the board. Like Arcanite Magician or Dad or whatever. Sometimes Black Rose Dragon even. But it's a little bit weird because it leaves you defenseless on your opponent's turn. So it's like you kind of have to have additional defense that isn't spells and traps on your opponent's turn. this is probably the perfect deck to play Cold Wave in, because you got triple Herald, double Honest, you got Necro Gardna, so you have 6 ways to defend yourself, even on your opponent's turn, even under Cold Wave. So yeah, very, very solid choice to include that in the main. I like the trap lineup. The sideboard has triple Massacre Restrict for Frogs, triple Consecrated for Blackwings. Consecrated being a fairy that you can loop with Christia, and being a light that you can loop with Beckoning is also amazing. Double Decree, obviously Decree Consecrated goes crazy versus Vayu Turbo and versus Blackwings. Trap Dust Shoot, busted card. Space Typhoon, Heavy Storm for the Light Mirrors. 1 Freed, that's the Pro Storm special, and the Hydro Pump special. I think Freed is a fantastic card in this deck. He just converts dead cards that you've milled, like multiple Raikos, multiple Lilas, into auto kill, which is really nice, especially against decks that are trying to deck dev you. You want to leave in, you kind of have to leave in Raikos and Heralds versus those decks, right? So when they do deck dev you, Freed is a way to pick up that card advantage and sort of return the favor of that huge +1 that deck dev can sometimes be. 1 Lightning Vortex. I will assume that we are going to see more Lightning Vortexes in sideboards moving forward for a lot of reasons, but namely for the second place deck, which is Amaryllis. This is Artemis's Amaryllis deck. This is his first top 8 in a tournament, and he made it all the way to second place. Well, in an RBET, I should say. He made it all the way to second place, which is amazing. Congratulations to Artemis. He's playing a build very similar to Lil Man Yu-Gi-Oh's 9th place build and the 2nd place build on, I'm blanking on the name of the player, I'm super sorry, but from the Ultimate Time Wizard in Raleigh last weekend. The big difference here is he has moved 1 Jors, the Emissary of Darkness, to the main, and I believe he's playing like a bottomless trap hole in the main, and he cut a different card. I don't really know what the changes are here. I'm going to be honest. But the Gores in the main was definitely something that the other players were not playing. There are a few cards here that I think you could cut to get this down to 40. And there are a few cards in here that I think you might want to bump up. If you are going to go over 40, there's an argument to play 3 Miracle Fertilizer. It's kind of the big innovation of this deck. I had played it in a video, or a couple of videos actually, a while ago. Alongside the Hidden Armory stuff, because the overlap of not needing a normal summon is fine when you have so many powerful effects. It's almost like you're not getting the drawback, if that makes sense. It's like activating multiple Reckless Greed in a way. It's like you just don't feel the drawback as badly when you're activating like Miracle, the Hidden Armory in the same turn. And yeah, it's a really solid deck. Really, really powerful deck. I would say invented by Carpath, innovated by Lil Man Yu-Gi-Oh! And we're here at this sort of Artemis build where I think it's still in its, I would say like an uncut gem sort of phase, where this is probably one of the strongest decks you can play right now. It has an insane Vayu Turbo matchup. It has an insane Frog matchup. So the top 2 decks in the format right now, or the top 2 most played, I should say, decks in the format right now, get absolutely destroyed by this deck. It does have a little bit of weakness to decks that can do big pierce damage like Blackwings, but it can be mitigated by a lot of other things that you have in the deck. The sideboard has the Shadow Mirrors, really strong card versus Vayu Turbo. Also pretty strong versus other dark decks like Norlaris, which can be annoying. Or, like Zombies. It's pretty good against that deck as well. Double Karma Cut. I think this card's fantastic. 1 Forbidden Chalice to shut off Fossil Dyna. I really like this inclusion. I think I recommended this inclusion in the Amaryllis Discord before this tournament happened. And the rest of the stuff is like pretty standard stuff you see in Amaryllis sideboards, including the 1 Lightning Vortex. Like I said, I do expect to see more Lightning Vortex in the sideboard as this deck becomes more and more popular, because it's one of the cleanest ways to out Titanium plus tokens or Titanium plus Amaryllis or whatever. It just answers it, no questions asked. I think Lightning Vortex is probably the best generic card. A lot of decks want to discard cards that you can add in addition to like Torrential Mirror Force, cards that you might already be playing to deal with Titanial. Titanial's kind of this format's like really jank Herald of Perfection, I would say. It's really, really powerful. It negates a large percentage of the format. It negates Caius, Raiko, 2 of the most common play cards, D-Prison, another one of the most common play cards, Darkarm Dragon, Brain Control, one of the most common play cards, Space Typhoon, one of the most commonly played cards. It just negates a lot of the most commonly played cards in the format. So in a lot of circumstances, it ends up just being a Herald of Perfection that reloads every single turn. That also attacks for 28, which is a really, really fast clock. I expect to see a lot of refining of this build and of this deck in general moving forward. I think it has an insanely high amount of potential, especially in the current climate, the current metagame of a lot of Value Turbo and a lot of frogs. And it definitely worked out well for Artemis this weekend. So congratulations on Artemis on his second place. And at first place, we have Chill Phil, my guy. Dude, I love Chill Phil. He's actually one of the coolest players to watch. He's really good at the game. He's topped a bunch of tournaments, and he finally gets to take home a huge victory at RBET 3 Season 3 online this weekend. And I'm super proud of him. He's been playing Edison format like competitively for like the last 3 years. He's been on multiple high-level coverage. He was top 4 in the 200-person Karlsruhe tournament in Germany. He's been just killing the game with a bunch of different decks. I believe he topped that tournament with Christia Sworn. He won this one with Blackwings. And kind of a return to form for Blackwings. Blackwings didn't make top 8 in the last, 2 or 3 major events at all. And Chill Phil showing, no, I'm still him. I still got it. Showed up with triple Legacy in his Blackwing deck list, which I think is a great tech. Usually I like Legacy of Yugioh when you can stay defended after it resolves. And in decks with Honest and Kalut specifically, I think that's where you can best stay defended. So if you like Legacy, you can draw into a Kalut. That's pretty good. It baits Heavy Storm, it baits Icarus attack, baits Space Typhoon, and then once you do that, it digs you deeper to your Black Whirlwinds. It digs you deeper to your power cards like Dark Armed, Brain Control, Heavy Storm, that sort of stuff. It's just a solid turn 1 play in this deck. It's pretty solid unless you're like top decking and then you top deck it, then it feels pretty bad. But generally speaking, Legacy of Yugioh is a really good card in this deck because of the ability to rip into Kalut and to bait back or removal so that your Black Whirlwind is more likely to stick. It also baits Rykos. It's great versus Value Turbo. It's great versus frogs because sometimes they'll like try to blow up your back row with like a Unifrog or something, and then they'll leave an attack position Unifrog that you can punish then later. Really solid main deck. I do like the Torrential Inclusion. I think this is a bit of a concession to Value Turbo and frogs being very popular. Torrential Tribute is really good versus both of those decks because both those decks like to commit a lot to the board. Frogs with the dupe lock, and then Value Turbo with like Hamster, Ryko, Armageddon Knight into Armed Wing type shit. And Torrential Tribute really picks up a lot of value versus both those decks. So I really do like the inclusion of Torrential Tribute in the main. And it put in so much work for him on camera. Go watch his games. Go watch his matches. He went undefeated in this tournament all the way to first place. So very solid stuff. I elected to play 2 Value. I do like 2 Value. I think that with triple Icarus and triple Legacy, it's not likely to be the only monster in your hand for long if you do like draw it and brick on it and stuff. Sideboard looks very straightforward. He's actually also not maining the Royal Oppressions. That being said, I think this deck is a little bit less reliant on Royal Oppression because of its burst potential. You can have like Sirocco, Bora Bora, Kalut turns where you just win. And this deck likes to Synchro Summon a lot more than Value Turbo does because of Blizzard and Gale. And it also, obviously still has Dark Arm the other ways to special summon. So I think not main decking Royal Oppression makes a little bit more sense in Blackwings and a little bit less sense in Value Turbo. Because I actually think Value Turbo relies on Royal Oppression a lot more than Blackwings does because Value Turbo doesn't have the aggro potential that Blackwings has, especially against decks that are like looping Dandelion. It doesn't have the Pierce. It doesn't have the burst Sirocco Bora turns where you can just deal 37 and then hope to have a solid Icarus or a solid Brain Control for game. And this deck also preyed on some of the decks that were out there trying to prey on Value Turbo, like the second place list, Artemis, Amaryllis list. Now, there were some key misplays in the finals that, if you guys go back and watch them, could have made things go either way. It was a very close match, but once again, I think Chill Phil played exceptionally. I think he definitely outplayed all of his opponents that I watched. He didn't make any like terrible misplays. He made a lot of really strong reads, a lot of strong plays, and the Legacy of Yugioh tech is really solid. Anything else in the sideboard I want to talk about? Triple pulling the rug, pretty good. He was playing the double Cyber Dragons. I still think Cyber Dragon's fantastic, especially versus Glads, and that actually mattered a lot. He played against Guari in, I believe, winners top winner side top 8, and him having those Cyber Dragons straight up won him that match. So, like, I still think Cyber Dragon is solid in Black Wings. It baits bottomless. It is great in aggro mirrors. It's pretty solid versus Vayu Turbo. You can just special it, run over their fucking Greffers for free, run over their Armageddons for free. It gets over Hamster. It forces Oppression to be face up if they have it. So I think it's pretty solid. Double Dyna, Soul Release for Frogs makes sense. Mind Crush for combo decks with the deck dev makes sense. Only one deck dev. Respect. I hate this card. It's bullshit. I never want to play against it. Double Oppression. Still got to have them. I mean, they still just win some matchups like Glads, which, again, they did put in a lot of work versus Gwari. Double Dust Tornado. Makes sense. Starlight Road triple pulling. Just a really solid list. I think if I was going to play like a stock Blackwing list, or if I was going to build a stock Blackwing list, I would card for card build Chill Phil's list. Straight up. I think that this list looks very close to me like what I would play. I may consider like a Book of Moon somewhere, maybe over the second Vayu, or maybe over like one of these purple cards. But I think that card for card, I would start with this if I was going to build a pure Blackwing list for my Gauntlet or for my testing team or for whatever. And yeah, shout out to Chill Phil. Shout out to all these players. This was a double elimination tournament, which means that all of them had to actually win all of their games. There was no time bullshit. All of the people who like to comment, Amaryllis is a meme deck because it only just stalls people in time and burns. You guys are just wrong, because Artemis was able to take it through an insane losers bracket run all the way to grand finals without ever going into time, without ever burning someone out in time or stalling someone or doing some cheeky Swiss bullshit. There was no time control for this tournament. Slow play was strictly enforced. The tournament actually finished faster than the average Swiss tournament. Top 8 was a lot faster. Double elimination, definitely better for coverage. It's just nonstop action. Probably one of my favorite VODs. I'm actually going to go back and watch this RBET VOD. Whereas for some of the Swiss ones, I would just like skim them. But this one I actually want to watch start to finish. It was by far my favorite RBET to cover to date. And it makes me very hopeful for the next upcoming RBETs. Every player we saw this weekend was amazing. There was several players I consider to be better than myself. It was key knowledge that you're not going to get anywhere else other than the RBET stream. So definitely check it out, and definitely come battle with the best of us at the upcoming tournaments. Much love, guys. Free Palestine, and I'll see you guys in the next vid. Peace.